Everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690 KTSM, an iHeartRadio station. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We have a lot that we get into every week here on the program, and that is no different, if anything, taken up to 11 today, as we are going to be focusing on all of your comments, calls, as much as we can cram into 2 hours in the program here today. Free for all Friday is what we call it, and that means that we will take on any subject, all calls, all comments. Just if you're calling in, you better keep it clean. Otherwise, we will dump it and move on to the other productive parts of the conversation as much as we need to here. Those FCC regulations do ever so matter, and we do mind them here. But otherwise, we will take on all comers, all subjects, and really just get into it for the pressure relief valve for the week. So if you're wanting to chime in that way, phone line's already open here. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, with Flaco Jimenez already dropping that like over on the social media, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. So just a few subjects here, because just because we will take on any subject doesn't mean we already don't have a bunch to talk about. Anyone ever hear me say again that I'm sure immigration and border security issues will come back into the news? Just remind me that this appears to be one of those Beetlejuice-like situations. You say it 3 times, and boy, is it going to show up, and in spades, particularly in our borderland region. No, I'm not saying I caused this, but man, it kind of feels like a called shot a little bit here. I mean, just a couple of the articles just from our news partners over at KFOX 14 coming out today. 23 migrants found in a stash house on June 7th, held for ransom. Also then 93 migrants and 3 stash houses total found by El Paso Sector Border Patrol. Some more also on that Haitian immigrant situation in Del Rio. A 511-page report released today by addressing CBP, better way to put it here. Also about that, the infamous whipping incident and what may or may not have happened there. And just a whole lot more also about Governor Greg Abbott, what he is pushing for. So, yeah, ever so slightly a busy day for those and a whole lot of other issues. Just a couple other ones that, of course, has been dominating, oddly enough, social media, that Elon Musk is pulling out of that $44 billion Twitter buyout deal. And if you can have an estimation that is not going to be the end of this process, might be for him, but there's potentials for legal implications for just a whole lot more. So I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard about it, even with this. But also a lot of things going on over in Asia, specifically today, like not even as a lately something I've been keeping an eye on. If you haven't heard already, or if you've been wondering why government buildings here in the U.S. have been flying flags at half-mast, we did have the previous Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, assassinated on the streets of Nara on the outskirts of one of major cities there in Japan by an apparent homemade weapon. And then also comments coming out from some officials in China calling the United States one of the greatest threats to the global world and global security. So, busy day, shall we say? And if you want to, again, chime in and bring on your 2 cents here, the number to call, again, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Let's get to those phone lines right now, as we also have John Hertz chiming in over on the social media, wanting to know where he can sign up to be a part of the border security efforts and, well, go down to your local CBP and or police recruiting station, potentially, though I'm sure that executive order from the governor is probably going to have more coming with it, or more specific action and legal action being taken around it. So stay tuned, I guess I would say there. But let's get to those phone lines. Again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. John Hurt's quibbling me, saying not a homemade weapon, it was a homemade gun. I mean, a gun is a weapon unless we're being something just really obtuse with our definitions here. So anyway, getting to those phone lines, we have Ben on the east side here with us on the line right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. Over the weekend, on July 4th, I was listening to the radio and I overheard a story I've heard before, but I'm just wondering, have you ever heard of the St. Paul's Chapel in New York?
St. Paul's Chapel. I'm aware of many churches in New York, but not maybe necessarily the one exactly you're talking about. What was the story you're talking about there?
Okay, the story is that George Washington took his oath of office, his first oath of office, in Federal Hall in New York City, and then gave his inaugural address. And then afterward, the inaugural committee went to St. Paul's Chapel in New York City, and there they sang praise to God and prayed for the United States. And it so happens that something happened at the Twin Towers a while back, where the Twin Towers was attacked, and all the buildings around there were destroyed, except for one little building, and that was St. Paul's Chapel. They now call it the little chapel that stood. And with all the other buildings around that were destroyed, and thoroughly destroyed, St. Paul's Chapel did not have one window broken.
Yeah, so I had heard about that.
A little bit of a divinity aspect to it.
Potentially, yes, for believers in such things. I think they could see the touch of the divine in that particular aspect. I mean, providence, whatever you call it, find it very, again, significant because, yeah, of course, I don't think a lot of people realize that, of course, that when, as you mentioned there, George Washington was inaugurated, the D.C. was not even, it was barely an idea if it even existed at that point. So there was no White House, no Capitol building, etc. for it to hold. And soon the major city in that region was definitely New York City. So I had seen that title of it. Yeah, 9/11, the chapel that stood. Trinity Church, Wall Street, also has an article up about that here, and it is pretty miraculous. I know that people often see a lot of important significance. Slightly more modern one that comes to mind, or more recent, I guess I should say, is the entire the fire that happened at Notre Dame. Or Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, and how some of the crucifixes were left unscathed in the midst of that.
Yeah, and one of the songs they sang was Te Deum, an early Christian hymn of praise, which can be translated as "Thee, O God, we praise." One other thing I wanted to say, okay, I thought that would be very interesting. If I'd known about that a long time, that story a long time ago, I may have had a completely another bent on how I was raised and what I believed in.
Okay.
Anyway, also one other thing, the people now are recommending masks again because of the rise in COVID and everything, and we know that masks, they do more harm than good. There have been a number of studies that have shown masks do no more harm than good. So there is a site that people can go to. It's called the FLCCC, and they put out a prevention protocol, which probably has more efficacy than any mask you'll ever wear. And that includes vitamin D3. Fauci was taking 6,000 international units throughout the pandemic, didn't tell anybody. People of color and Hispanics have historically low vitamin D levels. That's the reason why when they go in the hospital or they had COVID, they had a bad case of COVID, really bad case of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And also just gargling with, and I said this before, but just gargling with scope 3 times a day may help prevent you from getting COVID, because scope has an ingredient in it that kills the virus in the upper respiratory system, in your throat before it gets down into your lungs. So, instead of recommending masks, which don't work, which is why our medical people are doing that, our Quranza and everybody, these things you can actually do and maybe help prevent you from getting a bad case of COVID.
I mean, I'm fully in favor, as I have been, of people making reasonable precautions on their own here and deciding what is right for them here. I will say I'll draw a fine line here between masks just writ large and proper masks, because of course there are proper ones to wear, but they're generally not this what we have called the surgical masks that can often have some dubious actual production behind them here. But what I will also say about further is this, that there's a theory out there about how safety and laws impacting it can be done, and it's actually when it comes down to bike helmets. Bike helmets are pretty generally recognized as a very good thing to have on and wear, and this is why sometimes it's been codified in laws. But ironically enough, in some of those circumstances where, like, say, if you're on a bicycle, you are then required by law to wear a bike helmet, safety incidents actually tend to increase in there, people getting hurt, because among other things, the thought is that, we've done bike helmets, that's all we need to do, right? That's it. There's no other method, there's nothing else to done that has solved the issue, as opposed to thinking about things like, bike lanes or bike safety or requiring courses or greater community education or anything else that often gets put the locus entirely on that. Bike helmets, we're done. And I feel like that is a little bit in some of this advice that comes out, and why it has been advised some of the way that it has of any mask better than no mask. Well, I mean, there's maybe a kernel of truth there, but it's definitely not the full story. And just saying, and if you're masked, it's fine, and therefore don't worry about anything else. Sure, it's a pithy public health commentary, but again, the full story, it seems to be lacking in my mind. I've been thinking about that for a while now. And I think that actually giving the full story and giving full information is a lot more useful to people and has better outcomes.
Well, masks just, they've done a lot of studies, and if you wear a KN95 or N95 for any length of time, you're doing more damage to your lungs than anything else. And so that's just not a good thing to do. But one last thing, of course, let's go, Brandon.
All right. Well, thank you for the point in the call there. Do appreciate it. You have a good weekend.
Thank you. You have a wonderful weekend.
I mean, I'll disagree with you on the finer points about, again, masking. Again, really what it comes down to for me is the ability to make that decision for yourself here. Because, the choice for me and my family has been to, particularly in high-risk circumstances, to wear, again, proper masking. Because there is, again, a fine line between anything, neck gaiters and all that kind of stuff. And then, technically the one I'm doing is a 100-plus level. Because, I've actually researched this stuff before this point, saw what I needed for general emergencies, and it applies here as well. But being able to make that decision for yourself is a very important one and kind of critical, I think, as we are in the society and the open kind of and free society that we're supposed to be anyway. That's going to take us through our first break of the hour here right now. We are, of course, doing that whole free-for-all Friday thing. A lot of comments coming in online here already, and letting out a bunch of commentary. Also dropping those likes. We do appreciate John Browson and Flaco Jimenez. If you want to do that over the Facebook page, we'd appreciate it. But otherwise, if you want to comment, be a part of the commentary, or any of the conversation we're having here, that number to call, because the phone line is open right now, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here for Free for All Friday here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. as we are looking forward to this weekend, as I know I am, often the time comes to think about, okay, how might some family gatherings happen? How might that time together happen? And oftentimes, because what family gathering is really a gathering without some kind of food item? Because let's be honest, that's a lot of a cultural, societal expression happens around, well, what you gather around to consume together as a family. So if you really want to take it up a notch, to really take it to the next level and spice up your life, you need to check out the great supply of some very basic ingredients that can really elevate anything you're cooking. The extra virgin olive oils, flavored olive oils, and balsamic vinegars from our friends over there at Enhanced Flavors. They have got 40 plus different varieties, all different flavors, all different spice levels. Anything you're really looking for, they can probably help you out with, whether it be tangy, whether it be spicy, whether it be extra savory. You'd be surprised. I am always surprised anytime I look at their full selection and find something that I had never even considered before, and often end up picking up for myself. So if you want to do that, and again, take your cooking to the next level, find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com. And be sure with your next online order, which can be delivered right to your door from in town here, be sure to enter that code at checkout, EF Radio. That's EF Radio to get that 15% off your next order, or find them out in the community. Again, as we're doing more events and this beautiful weather we've been having this summer, often out at the Country Club Farmers Market. But again, all the details about where they are, what they're doing, and how you can get your supply at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I have a couple of incidents in the same area. I-10 westbound at Mesa Street, exit 11 there. Injury accident reported. Police are arriving on the scene right now. Also an injury accident, North Desert Boulevard, northbound at Mesa Street. And rescue units are arriving there as well. Larry Aarons, El Paso traffic.
Find yourself going through life ignoring the totals on your receipts? Oh, I can't bring myself to look. We've got your shot at $1,000 with Inflation Vacation. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Legendary basketball coach at Duke, Coach K, has earned 5 national titles and 3 gold medals at the Olympics. But you'll hear the story of how he was almost fired back in 1983. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The job market is competitive right now, so you need to be competitive to attract top talent. If you're trying to fill open positions at your business, iHeartMedia is here to help. Use radio and digital targeting to find fresh, passive candidates currently in the workforce. These candidates are listening right now, looking for new opportunities. Together, we can let the community know you're hiring. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
New on Curiosity Stream.
With my infrared drone, I can see what others can't.
Drone pilot Doug Thron uses his bird's eye view for the ultimate good, saving animals from desperate situations around the globe. Join the rescue effort on a new season of Doug to the Rescue. And
you captured a Confederate steamboat, you're taking the ship to freedom.
An enslaved crew, a stolen vessel, and a Civil War dash to salvation on impossible escapes. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, similar names under Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.tv. A lot of comments already coming in over there already, as is to be expected. It is Friday after all, and we're taking comments and calls throughout both hours of the program here. So some of them chiming in over there. RJ, Kathy Codry, John Hertz, Flaco Jimenez, John Brazelton, and a whole lot more. Also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, John Brazelton, and Flaco Jimenez. John, continuing an argument with me here, saying, yes, a gun is a weapon. However, saying homemade weapon and that homemade gun diminishes it. Remember, liberals want to ban all guns. Like, I'm not even saying you're necessarily wrong in that, yes, it is very technically a gun, or shotgun if you want to be most specific about it. The weapon that was used in the assassination was really home crafted as heck. But actually, the stuff they were reportedly pulling out of this guy's apartment, some 5-barreled and 9-barreled homemade specials, like, I'm kind of glad this guy is in custody right now, because otherwise, if we ever ended a Mad Max situation, this guy is going to cause a lot of trouble for everyone. But I also feel like we're splitting hairs a bit in the definition of what we're talking about here, and kind of missing the point of that it was used in an assassination. Like, that's the major headline in my point here, in my mind, because this is probably going to send reverberations throughout the entire East Asia political sector. And I know there's been some talk out there of this. Could this be essentially an Archduke Franz Ferdinand moment? I don't see that yet, but, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, to go back in history, of itself was not consequential. It's what everyone did after that. That was the real, start of World War I, if you want to get specific here. So only time will really tell there. But, yes, was definitely a homemade shotgun, and pretty crazy ones there. And that happened overnight here. It's still the same day in Japan. Yeah, we can only really guess what's going to continue coming out of that one here. But a lot of other comments coming in about pandemic restrictions and issues with it. Take what you think is reasonable for yourself here. One of the things that I guess I am more enthused about, enthused isn't quite the right term, is that even as there have been reported surges and other things happening across the country and the world at this point, at least here in the U.S., that the actual hospitalization rates have been remaining decently flat. And, there's a lot of factors being analyzed for that, but I think treatments and knowledge and other things like what we've been talking about here have become more available. RJ asking, in that situation in Asia and Japan, is he a creative genius gunsmith or a whack job? Probably somewhere in between, because I wouldn't necessarily call it creative genius. Some of these things that they were, again, pulling out of this dude's residence was pretty nuts. And Japan has always had a strange bent when it comes to political violence, like even more than a lot of the rest of the world and even the U.S. So, that's just still a developing story. So more tuned on that here. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, if you wanted to chime in during the show, full up at the moment, but that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll have a lot of time here to take the comments and calls, as it is Free for All Friday, and we're doing that both hours of the program here. So just getting started right now, really. So we got Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment real quick on Abe Shinzo, the Prime Minister of Japan. I don't know if you remember, but he was the one that recommended Trump for the Nobel Prize. And as a matter of fact, that was a slap in the face of Obama, because nobody recommended him. He just got it for nothing. But that was because of he stopped the North Koreans from sending missiles over Japan, remember? But the other thing that I called about was that lately another video has surfaced from the Hunter Biden computer from hell. And the live stream, and it's a live stream of Hunter Biden in a wedding pool, completely naked, exposing himself to the camera and snorting crack. Looking all starry-eyed and crazy looking on Big High. Well, Hunter Biden is really a reflection, or he represents the Democratic Party. They're all wet, naked, and stupefied. They can't get their thing together because they don't know how to. And they're all drugged up on the fact that Trump was a better president than Obama could have been. The other thing is that a lot of scholars are saying that it was a good thing that the Democrats stole the election from Trump, because they're saying that Trump could have been assassinated, same as Abe Shinzo was assassinated. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
No, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call there. I mean, all this talk about historians in any bent here. I mean, historians usually, sure, chronicling modern history, but you're really getting into like judgments on it. Usually doesn't happen in quite this short of order. Someone will remain a little bit dubious about that further point you're making there. And well, let me just say this about the parties in general. Anytime there has been such vociferous opposition for any extended period of time, 4 years or 8 years, depending on which political bent you're talking about here, the actual like core values can tend to get a little bit lost. Not even necessarily that they're less important, but when you're spending all your time opposing something, going into, okay, what are we actually putting forth and doing instead, you can fall by the wayside a bit or be harder to refocus on. And another way to put it is the dog that caught the car, what's he going to do with it now? And I think that's a little bit of what we've seen even recently in recent weeks and months here. So getting back into an actual ruling and legislating and, running a country kind of thing, as opposed to just opposing what has been being done. Well, we've seen waves of that in even just the last decade here. So I think that's more than a little bit of some of the consternation that's been going on with some of the parties of either bent here. But anyway, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. Let's to Kathy Gordy pointing out that, yeah, Japan does have very strict gun laws, which makes it even that a little bit more shocking that this happened. But again, the fallout of that has only really, I think, begun here. Let's go to those phone lines here. We got time for one more before we hit that next break. We do have Al in the Northeast in the line with us right now. Al, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, and Andrew, and hope you and you all are safe and sound in this era of COVID misinformation and panic. But it's a daunting task to even try to rebut some of these Democrat points. But I do want to make a shout out to our friend Comrade Raul in the Northeast. I don't even know where to begin, but let's start with his psychosis, his hate Trump psychosis. I would suggest he gets some serious counseling for that, or if he chooses not to, I think make a great speechwriter for Beto. I mean, that would virtually ensure that we get our great governor back. It's just amazing what the Democrats come up with day after day. You think that there can't be anything more outrageously unreal, or just they're living in a delusional reality. But every day something comes up that is just unbelievable. It's like Biden blaming Russia for our oil failures or for our oil prices when all his policies have choked our energy production, which was number one in the world under Trump. The Democrats are always bragging that they've been in power for the last 80% of 40 or 50 years. So who's responsible for the condition of the world? It's like every Republican president that comes in has to fix the damage done by the previous Democrat president, and then when another Democrat gets in office, all of the failures are blamed upon the Republicans. I mean, it's they don't take responsibility for any of the failures that they produce.
I know it's not going to be maybe terrifically popular with a lot of the standpoint here, but actually the frustration with this current administration is not even solely limited to the conservative persuasion. And I know this is probably going to raise some eyebrows with some, but I've even seen like on Twitter today, some that saying that who are those now espousing the idea that, well, there's nothing that Biden can do, essentially that idea. And yet when Bernie Sanders was campaigning and saying that we're going to need to fight for every inch of ground, that was being told as a magic beans kind of philosophy. But the idea that the opposite side would just automatically agree with them was definitely rational political discourse. So that's some of what I've been seeing going on today, even just today on Twitter. And so the frustration with this and or the relative inaction or ineffectiveness of this current administration at this point in time, as is further reflected by some of the recent polling, make no mistake, this is not just talking points, but really reflected sentiment is, well, again, it's not even just partisanly frustrating.
Well, let me just summarize real quickly. You know, this was a quotation by one of our famous literary icons, Mark Twain. And every time you hear the Democrats come up with some new delusional statement, Mark Twain said, "Don't argue with a fool, or never argue with a fool, because they drag you down to their level and beat you with experience."
Yep, that's I should have like a book of Mark Twain quotes around here because I think about them a lot, and particularly ones like that.
If you hear anything said by a Democrat, you know, any statement that they make where they say the American people, you automatically know that there's a lie coming. You know, it's like that old adage too. How do you know a politician is lying when their lips are moving?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we could get into the weeds about specifics here today, but I won't take up any more time. I know you got a lot of other callers coming in. Thanks for giving me the opportunity once again, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy out there.
Absolutely agree with you, certainly on that point and a few others there. So appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there as well. All right, that's going to take us to our next break right now. We are doing that free-for-all Friday thing, so if you want to get on the line, however, just so slightly a suggestion, might be a good time to try to do so, because we got those phone calls, those comments, all that stuff coming in through both hours of the program here, coming into the bottom of the hour and taking that break a little bit past, actually, but that's just between you and me. We'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. That number again, 915-544-5876. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The trial of a former Las Cruces police officer will begin on Monday. Christopher Smelzer was charged with second-degree murder in the death of 40-year-old Antonio Valenzuela in February of 2020. Smelzer has pleaded not guilty. He was indicted in July of 2020 at a time when there were protests around the country over police violence. Border Patrol agents in the El Paso sector found 93 migrants at 3 stash houses over the last several days. That's according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In one instance, agents say that on Tuesday they received information of a possible smuggling attempt in Segundo Barrio in downtown El Paso. Agents arrived at the location and encountered 13 migrants from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Ecuador hidden inside a small property. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
If you're on the Gateway or the I-10 right now in El Paso, you know it's slow. Gateway Boulevard westbound at Geronimo, an injury accident with delays. I-10 westbound at Paisano, a crash in the clearing stages, but still a backup to before Westmoreland. Expect delays there. I-10 eastbound is slow from Gateway to Trowbridge with 10-minute delays. Border Highway westbound at Padres, there's a crash. And Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We had quite a night last night, and tonight, well, we could be still looking at another round of some showers and thunderstorms. There's still a lot of moisture in place, so just be aware of your surroundings. Those storms should come to an end as we get into the overnight hours, leaving us with a quieter setup tonight. However, we do have an isolated chance to see more showers and storms each day with warming temperatures into the weekend.
This report is sponsored by Allstate.
The open road is the one place you need to be in control at all times, and BrakeMasters takes that seriously. Get your vehicle in BrakeMasters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
BrakeMasters. We give you an honest break.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
All these moves by the Federal Reserve have caused the great unwind, and I want to make sure you don't get caught in the crosshairs. I'm Mark Moss, each week discussing the decentralized revolution. So join the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in that way. We'll delve into those more as we do on Friday, but as also part of this whole free-for-all Friday experience, you have that phone line open. That number to call if you want to chime in that way, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of issues we're delving with here, including Kathy Coterie asking me specifically, want to know why, referring to the president there, is depleting the strategic oil reserves and selling it to China and India. Which I'm referring to there is that there's been at least 1 million barrels of oil sold from that, among other things, to China, and also, shipped, exported worldwide. It does looking like that. I will say this, I would like to know the reasoning behind this, because it definitely raises an eyebrow, particularly given the name of the strategic oil reserve and therefore what it's supposed to be for. But again, I'm my guesstimate. I have no real specific thing I can point to besides some previous statements coming out from congressional Democrats, even a few from Texas, if I'm not mistaken, that signed a letter recently saying that even increasing domestic supply may not decrease prices on the whole because it's still determined by global supply. So that's about the only reason that serious benefit of the doubt territory. I'll be honest with you. I'm thinking about why this could be justified, but also given light of things such as, again, Chinese officials declaring the United States one of the largest threats to global security. It's not a good look. I'll agree with you that much anyway. Let's back to those phone lines right now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM is the number to call there. Full up at the moment, but we can squeeze in at any point during the rest of the show. We do have Barbara on the west side with us right now here. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. Well, I'm going to piggyback on the gentleman who just called regarding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We'll recall that Biden, when he tapped into the reserve, he said that, and I'm quoting him, said he was doing it to address the pain Americans are feeling at the pump and to fight back against Putin's price hike. Now we know that's not true. 950,000 went to China, and the company in China that was doing the negotiation is Sinopec. I'm sure you remember that name. Hunter is a top investor in Sinopec. They got 126 bids, and they chose 12 companies to receive our petrol. And Sinopec is one of them because they said their price was competitive. So now we know that Hunter Biden has connections with that company, and he was supposed to have stepped away from the company, but most recent records, according to Breitbart, state that he is still on the records as a stakeholder in the company. So we keep hearing, is our president compromised? We need to take these things seriously. The second thing I wanted to talk about, and it also involved Hunter and his brother, Representative Corker was on the news last night, And he said that they discovered that there were 150 suspicious activity reports filed against Hunter and his brother. Now, suspicious activity reports are only filed when they're receiving money from terrorist groups, from bad actors in foreign countries. And what Corker said, amazingly, I have to rewind it to listen to this, only 0.1% of Americans ever have a suspicious activity report filed against them. Now, under the Obama administration, he went on to say, and the Bush administration, when anything like this came to the attention of Congress, they could go to the Treasury and request those suspicious activity reports. They went to Treasury and they were told the procedure has changed under the Biden administration. They no longer do that. They couldn't give them the reports. So Representative Corker started putting out small details of what's going on in the press. And when the Treasury heard about it, they called Representative Corker to go in and visit with him. And this is what they told Corker. Okay, we will give you the suspicious activity reports, provided you get one Democrat from Congress to sign on your request. Guess how far that went? Nowhere.
Yeah, I can
You're not
guess.
going to find one Democrat in Congress that's going to sign anything to investigate Hunter. Now, if we are foolish enough and walking around with our eyes closed to believe that there isn't anything there compromising our president, we're nuts. And just today, the FBI Director Wray had been interviewed, and he said that they had advised in February specific companies that China is now doing overt and covert means of influencing policy making at the local level. So China has escalated their influence on state and local business leaders. And this event was held in February by the Senate Intelligence Committee about the risks of the Chinese influence. They also mentioned President Trump's China initiative because they were stealing our intellectual property via our colleges and universities. And Biden said, no more of that. So now we're back to square one. They're mentioning once again President Biden's wisdom in what he did regarding the China initiative. So this, what I'm talking about today, I'm hoping will infuriate every one of your listeners, enough to take the fury to go vote against the Democratic Party in November, because this is what they're doing to us. And everything comes out in pieces. There's no transparency. These individuals who, Free Beacon and others, Wall Street Journal and representatives, they do a lot of research and they work really hard to put this information out to the American people. We, on the other hand, we need to verify what they're telling us. So we need to spend time researching these facts. And it's just amazing that after we hear all this stuff, that we have a representative, Escobar, who still supports this administration. We need to vote her out in November. We need to put Irene in there. And we have some other fantastic ladies also running school boards, Blanca Trout. Ida Baez is running. I don't remember what justice peace office she's working. And then we have an independent, Guadalupe. Maybe it's the year of the women, Andrew. These are strong candidates. If people would take time to listen to them, go to a community rally for them, and support change, not only at the local level, but we need to take what's happening seriously with President Biden and China. China's eating our lunch, and President Biden is just walking around in a meek manner like he's, unconscious, unaware of what's happening to our country and these people in the administration. I heard that he was reading, I tried to listen to him today, but it's really hard. One of the lines in his teleprompter said, repeat the sentence. He read the sentence and then he says, repeat the sentence. He repeated the instructions they told him to repeat the prior sentence. And it's like, we're in trouble, people. And I hope you notice it.
Yeah.
Because we heard about the reserves. June 17th, I think the article came out from the Wall Street Journal. And just now that you hear it in the media coming out strong, firm and strong, what's happening and why. I mean, there's 3 or 4 weeks in between the time we get just a little trickle of what's happening, or they put out a trial balloon. And then 4 weeks later, we hear about it. Like, look what happened with the Border Patrol today. Those 2 officers, I think there were 2 Border Patrolmen, that the president said they will pay. Without even knowing what happened, he went on camera and he said, they will pay. And they did today, unfortunately. Talk about morale. Talk about, your heart just bleeds for the Border Patrol. And like I said, please take this fury with you in November and remember what's happening these months and what's happened these past months. Because we've got to change the trajectory that we're on, or China's going to be, China and the cartel, that's who's running our country right now.
I'll say this on China specifically, that about any statement you see, particularly outward facing or even inward facing, coming out from particularly, the leadership of China and the Chinese Communist Party, that it's often a little bit of telling on themselves that, oh, you're definitely the greatest global security threat, which can also be read as you're the greatest threat to our idea of the global order that we want to establish here. Just one quick correction here, that you referred to Blanca Trout. She is coming from a school board, but actually running for that county commissioner seat. So keep that in mind. And I actually did see my first campaign poster out and about today. Not that I've been extensively searching for it, but the first one that came to my notice for, as you mentioned there, Guadalupe Hinera, the independent candidate running for the county judge seat, actually. So I think that county commissioners in general will be one of the more active races we see here coming up. But as always, encourage everyone to go out there and vote. So do appreciate the point in that call. We got to hit that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll squeeze in what we can. Of course, get into more of what we do here on the program here on Fridays, which is as many comments as calls as we can squeeze in. So if you're wanting to get on the line, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash, I-10 westbound at Airway that's blocking 2 left lanes, and there's an ambulance on the scene. Caution there. A couple of earlier crashes, I-10 westbound at Paisano and the Gateway westbound at Geronimo have cleared, but still some residual congestion there. And North Desert Boulevard is closed today, northbound between Paseo del Norte and Trans Mountain. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
The open road is the one place you need to be in control at all times, and Brake Masters takes that seriously. Get your vehicle in Brake Master shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
3 weeks. It's incredible. After 3 weeks, I'm on vacation in Paris, having a conversation in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Babbel. Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
You've heard the big news. Greta is back, and she's on Newsmax. Now, Greta is taking on Big Washington and Big Media at 6 p.m. Eastern every weeknight with her new show, The Record with Greta Van Susteren. Greta always gives you the real news. And she leads a big night on Newsmax with Rob Schmidt talking about Biden's economic train wreck. And then there's Eric Bolling exposing the woke agenda. More than 20 million Americans watch Newsmax. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. It's on all major cable and streaming platforms. If your cable system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them. If they won't carry it, Switch to a system that does. And download the free Newsmax app on your smartphone. Watch it anytime. Tune into Newsmax tonight for Greta Van Susteren, Rob Schmidt, Eric Bowling, and a lot more. Make the switch to Newsmax today.
All these moves by the Federal Reserve have caused the great unwind, and I want to make sure you don't get caught in the crosshairs. I'm Mark Moss, each week discussing the decentralized revolution. So join the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here, of course. And Friday is what we are doing, the free-for-all Friday thing, that is, because, well, getting all the comments, concerns, calls, everything that we can cram into the show anyway is the purpose for today here. So short timing at this segment, so we're going to go ahead that top of the hour, but letting you know a few other things, including, not that I thought it wasn't an unreasonable thing, but Twitter now suing Elon Musk over pulling out of the acquisition deal. So that's just one of the things going on in the background, even as there are a whole lot more things, including border security, immigration, whole lot going on there. So we'll pick that up at the top of the next hour with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, if you want to squeeze in on the line, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash, I-10 westbound at Airway that's blocking 2 left lanes, and there's an ambulance on the scene. Caution there. A couple of earlier crashes, I-10 westbound at Paisano and the Gateway westbound at Geronimo have cleared, but still some residual congestion there. And North Desert Boulevard is closed today, northbound between Paseo del Norte and Trans Mountain. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students.
We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News on the hour and a hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Louisiana's abortion ban is back on.
A judge dissolved a temporary restraining order this afternoon with the case transferred from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. The Baton Rouge judge could reissue the TRO, which would keep 3 abortion clinics open. Elon Musk is terminating his deal to buy Twitter. The Tesla CEO wrote a letter announcing the $44 billion purchase was off on Friday, citing material breaches of multiple provisions of the agreement. President Biden is talking about the impact of the assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe.
This attack has had a profound impact on the psyche of the Japanese people. This is a different culture they're not used to, as unfortunately we are.
Speaking at the CIA, Biden labeled the shooting death highly unusual for Japan compared to the rampant gun violence in the U.S. Biden praised Abe and said he was deeply committed to a strong relationship with the U.S. The administration is sending its 15th aid package to Ukraine. Lisa Taylor has more.
That means the U.S. has provided more than $7 billion since the beginning of Russia's invasion. A defense official told CNBC the U.S. coordinated a $400 million weapons package with Ukrainian officials. Ukraine is asking for heavy artillery platforms such as howitzers and high-mobility artillery rocket systems. In a tweet, President Zelensky said he's truly grateful. He added, "Let's go to victory together." I'm Lisa Taylor.
Amber Heard is asking a Virginia court for a mistrial in her defamation case with ex-husband Johnny Depp over an issue with a juror. Heard's lawyers claim the information on the jury panel list made before trial doesn't match the demographics of one of the jurors. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Spirit Airlines is again delaying a vote on a possible merger with Frontier. Rick Hoschel reports.
In a statement, the South Florida-based discount carrier said a meeting scheduled to take place Friday has been rescheduled for July 15th. Spirit said the vote is being postponed so the company can continue discussions with Frontier and rival airline JetBlue. It's the third time the vote has been put off. Frontier is offering about $2.4 billion to acquire Spirit, while JetBlue's bid totals about $3.6 billion.
Former Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore has lost an appeal in a $95 million lawsuit against actor-comedian Sacha Baron Cohen and CBS Corporation. In a unanimous decision yesterday, judges on the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New York upheld a lower court ruling. It said Moore's signing of a release form before he appeared on a fictional TV news show hosted by Cohen barred him from bringing the lawsuit. One of Major League Baseball's greatest players, New York Mets' Keith Hernandez, will be honored tomorrow afternoon when his number will be retired. Paul DeCastro has more.
The former first baseman was a 5-time All-Star and played 7 seasons with the Amazons. Hernandez was named the first-team captain in franchise history and led the Mets to their second World Series title in 1986. He won 11 Gold Gloves. Hernandez will join Tom Seaver, Mike Piazza, and Jerry Koosman as the only 4 players to have their numbers retired by the Mets.
Paul DeCastro reporting. Fewer Americans and Canadians who visit Hawaii plan on going back within the next 5 years. Results of a state-commissioned visitor satisfaction and activity survey show the cost of the trip is the main reason visitors don't plan on booking another one. The second most popular reason is people are already planning on vacationing somewhere else in the near future. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If your business is feeling a summer hiring wave, then you need Indeed. Their all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
New on Curiosity Stream.
This is very different. Dinosaurs living in sub-freezing temperatures.
A groundbreaking expedition reveals Antarctica's vibrant prehistoric past on dinosaurs of the frozen continent. And as Napoleon's enemies surged, one failed negotiation with Austria led to his eventual downfall. Relive the diplomatic showdown that turned the tide on Napoleon, the beginning of the end. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
The free iHeartRadio app is your summer travel soundtrack. Whether you're hitting the road, taking a flight, or hanging out by the pool, you can take your favorite radio station with you everywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app. Enjoy tons of playlists filled with summer anthems like Songs of Summer, Yacht Rock, Beach Vibes, and Kids Summer, plus all the podcasts. You can escape the heat with chilling true crime podcasts or soak up the sun with some comedy fun and so much more. It's all free and it's all waiting for you now on the iHeartRadio app. Discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
iHeartRadio. Imagine being denied an apartment because of housing discrimination.
It's so wrong.
But who has the power to stop this?
You do. The law is on your side. If you've been discriminated against because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status, file a complaint with HUD. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
Visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. A public service message from HUD and the National Fair Housing Alliance.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, being on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today, a lot of comments coming in, calls, all that good stuff that we do on Friday. Free for all Friday is what we like to call it, because we are taking your comments and calls throughout both hours of the program. Getting into hour two here, phone lines full up at the moment, but we want to squeeze in at a later point that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And just some of the comments coming in, Ida Beza Gardner, Juan, RJ, Kathy Codry, just going to call it EFR over on the Twitch stream, Louis Pinato, John Brazelton, Eric Von Holstein-Ratho, Flaco Jimenez, James Ratcliffe. Yeah, a lot of comments, and also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Ida Beza Gardner, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, John Brazelton, and Flaco Jimenez there as well. Juan chiming in saying, totally against having my taxes increased to support UMC, but we do need a burn center. Patients are transferred to Lubbock. Ken Citron paid for it. He has the money. I mean, that's, I think, at least part of the conversation going on there, though, of course, as we get closer to that end of that current 60-day countdown we're in, so probably at like 50, low 50s, high 40s at this point. I'm not actually sure when the exact countdown came offhand, so we'll be getting there in a month and a half, give or take. Let's just call it that to be safe here. So, yeah, that's conversation continuing on there. RJ on the whole Twitter situation saying Twitter and their fake bot income stream are going to lose that suit here. Again, referring to all that stuff going on. Elon Musk pulling out of the $44 billion Twitter acquisition deal, and Twitter board saying that they are going to enforce and in court the contract signed for the acquisition. Though, of course, yeah, anything involving corporate law is one of the least simple things we talk about here, so I'm not even going to try to pretend to know exactly the outcomes there. But a whole lot more comments coming in on this, among other things, the Strategic Oil Reserve, different sources. Louis Bernardo's specifically saying that I won't learn anything from MSNBC. I'll be honest with you, I don't learn much of anything from MSNBC because I don't watch it. I actually don't have cable, believe it or not, because the 24-hour news cycle is just tiresome and tiring. Finding more specific guided things that you can get off, well, other subscriptions I do, with other online outlets, I find to be much, much, much more useful, particularly since if you're just looking at some of the stories there. So, yeah, if you're wondering if things coming from MSNBC, you're not going to hear much of that out of my mouth anyway on this program, unless it's something incredibly specific like involving El Paso. And even then, hasn't particularly happened yet. So let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call if you're wanting to squeeze in on the line, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Do we have Frankie and Messia on the line with us right now? Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right. As always, Friday is a bittersweet day. It's sweet because it's Friday, and it's bitter because I got to wait all the way to Monday before you come back on the radio. That's number one. Number two, I want you to delete my positive comment I made on Bewildered Barber on your email account. Unless you want to share it with the audience. Other than that, I reject it. I want to retract it. That's number 2. Number 3, our great governor here in this beautiful state of New Mexico, land of enchantment, just too bad for you, Texas, you don't have any enchantment, is giving us, the New Mexico citizens, money to help pay for gas. Why? Because we pay state income taxes. And because we got a lot of money in state income taxes, Michelle is allowing to cut loose a little bit of money to help us out. Again, you Texans, too bad. Now, number 4, that nut job, Roy Moore, lost his case against Sacha Baron Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
That stupid Alabama nut job, which is right next to the state of that other conservative kook nut job. What's her name? Muggery Thuggery. What's her name? So that's what I want to say. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's an interesting perspective there. I mean, an argument could be further made about, okay, we're giving people money back from the taxes we took with them. And I think at least partially in Texas, and one of the reasons that, I mean, as I'm embarking on the whole home ownership thing, I have a lot. I mean, we was already talking about it a lot about the property taxes and the impacts from that here. So don't think that they're getting off the hook for that either. But the idea of taking the money from people and then giving them back some of them as an economic stimulus, that it may have been therefore better served by leaving the money with them in the first place. I mean, that's a little bit of the argument that comes to mind in response to that would probably be brought up.
Okay, I hear you on that. I disagree 100%. Listen, in the state of New Mexico, we got a 3-leg stool. We pay state income tax, we pay sales tax, and we got property tax. You people in Texas have got a 2-leg stool. And guess what? Go ahead and try and sit on a 2-leg stool and see how well balanced you're going to be. This is modern life, Andrew, and everybody else out there in the Southwest border region. If you want to have stuff, you got to pay for it. And you keep bringing people into Texas, and you say how wonderful we are because we don't pay this, we don't pay that, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? You people are putting yourselves in a hole because you're so blind to see what's going on. That's my point.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, appreciate the point in the call. Hope you have a great weekend there.
You take care, Andrew.
All right, bye-bye. I think we could get another call on the line here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Call here from, again, EFR over the Twitch saying, please block all callers from New Mexico. There's no need for their nonsense. I mean, we're not blocking anyone on this program. If you're in the coverage area of our signal here, more than welcome to chime in because, sure, it's Talk El Paso, but I take El Paso in the regional sense. This is the El Paso region, which, of course, includes other portions, further east here in Texas and also southern New Mexico here. And some other comments coming in here. Eric von Holstein-Rathel, the comment I'm going to go with here is taxation is theft, kind of further along what I was suggesting might be a counter argument there. But let's go back to those phone lines again. The number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. I'm sure you're aware that the federal government is suing the state of Arizona because Arizona is requiring proof of citizenship, when you go vote.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'd heard about the start of, mostly reactions from various political, candidates and organizations on this, but yes, had heard of the initial suit itself.
Yes. Now, if you look at USA.gov, one of the first thing it says, in order to vote in federal elections, you have to be a U.S. citizen.
Yes, that is generally accepted to be a requirement as far as anything I've ever been aware of.
Yes, and it is also in Title 52 of the election law, the U.S. Code.
I mean, yeah, it's. I don't even really get the quibbling over this. I mean, there have been certain other things where about getting issued state level ID, even if you're not a citizen or even necessarily legal resident. I know that it has had its own level of controversy in the past, and there are some reasonable arguments, frankly, on either side of that issue that I think the balance still be decided in some of that. But the idea of it not being part of voting, like, okay, this is even different than the Texas situation, as far as I'm aware, of where it was requiring specific types of identification, state issued, etc., beyond picture ID, beyond just the voter registration card. And so that they're not even being a requirement of proof of citizenship. Yeah, this one, I know that there's a little bit more in depth on this, but in general, it does leave me scratching my head as to what are we trying to get here. I mean, what essentially the DOJ is claiming is that it's too onerous the way that they're requiring the proof of citizenship. But again, it's a real strange hill to choose to die on.
Yes, also they said, DOJ also said it would remove a lot of people from the voter registration rolls. Well, if you're not eligible to vote, or if you're if you're deceased, your name shouldn't be on the voter registration rolls.
Again, I don't think they're quite making the argument that they realize they're making it here. Like, there might be other ways to say that, like, hey, you're not providing enough resources for people to establish citizenship, or making it like if it's like too much jumping through hoops, but that's not the argument that's coming through.
Well, it's amazing. People complained about having to show a picture ID to vote, but yet when it comes to, and I know this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but when it comes to going to the food bank, they always come up with a photo ID right away.
Yeah. I mean, that's its own separate issue here, but it's, again, the headlines on this, and I hope people read more than headlines if you're getting anything out of the way we talk about issues on this show here, because seriously, delving into these issues is more than a little bit important. I mean, there are some aspects, kind of as the same was the Texas law in this one minor way about, are there resources available for people to help fix that, particularly if there are errors, or is essentially it is, tough, must suck, good luck, as opposed to, okay, and then here are the state resources to deal with it. Because sure, I am fully in favor of there being stringent requirements to make sure that people who are allowed to are the ones doing these very important and foundational things that I harp on a lot, such as voting, but also making sure that there are therefore resources to be able to rectify and deal with these situations. I'm not sure this would be even really part of a DOJ action at any level, but rather the state making sure they're doing that. Otherwise, I would see that going in the other direction.
Yes. Also, I must respond to Foolish Frankie from Messia.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, your governor wouldn't be giving you money to help you pay for high gas prices if Biden didn't have this moronic energy policy that's put us in the situation that we're in. That's all I got to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, there are additional taxes on energy production in the state of New Mexico. Like, it's not even just an income tax. I mean, anytime, and I do mean anytime, particularly at the state level, federal, yes, but there's more specifics to get into there, including the Federal Reserve and such. But seriously, state level things, they are doing it because they taxed it. So if you're saying, well, they're giving us money back, I mean, the question that I find most persuasive is, okay, where did that money come from through in the first place? Because unless we're talking about Alaska with the sovereign wealth funds, it was not just made out of thin air.
That's true. Very true. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you, Andrew. Have a good weekend.
You too as well. Hope you have a great one there. Appreciate the point and the call here. All right, tell you what, we got to take that next break right now, and we got a lot of comments, a lot more commentary, more calls that we will take after this break as well. So that number here to call if you want to chime in on the show, 915-544-5876, 915-544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got a crash on the I-10 westbound at Airway. It's blocking 2 left lanes, and there's an ambulance on the scene. Use caution, and it's causing a backup. Also on the 10 westbound approaching Mesa Street all the way up to Artcraft, you've got 9-minute delays. More folks on the 10 this afternoon because North Desert Boulevard is closed. Police also responding to a crash I-10 eastbound at Dallas downtown. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Possible jail time for January 6th committee witness, and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden story unravels as well. Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, we'll dive into these two stories as their lies finally may have consequences. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. But prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of issues we got going on and talking about today, but also we got a lot of things that we will take from y'all in the audience. Specifically, Free for All Friday is the thing that we do on Fridays, as the name suggests, and it means that we take your comments and calls throughout both hours of the show here. Brisk pace already been set up here. A lot of comments coming in over on the socials from the Skeptic Squad out in force here today. Some of the response also happening. Fred Marcus saying New Mexico is ranked as the worst state to live in. They're also one of the poorest states in the union. It goes to show you how ignorant and unintelligent Messiah Frankie is. Keep letting your government take your money and have nothing to show for it, Frank. And others, Ian Graham saying more specifically that the governor there is trying to buy votes with the money she just gave out. She knows she's in trouble with her popularity and is trying to buy it back. That is from the COVID dollars the state's got over a year ago. She didn't use it for COVID and is now trying to cover her tracks. Do your research. But also, the taxes on energy supplies, all the things that have been going on with their teacher pay raises, they've been directly references coming from that. So Eric von Holstein-Rathlow kind of continuing with his theme there, saying the government takes your money through coercion, then gives it back to you flamboyantly. Yeah, it's I can't remember the exact phrase, but essentially the fact is essentially a prediction back in the early days of the existence of this country that the moment that politicians realize they can take the people's money and then give it back to them, we're all done for. I'm very badly paraphrasing it here, so excuse my butchering of it, but essentially that sentiment will still persuade me today anyway. But let's back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Full up at the moment, but we'll take more calls here so you can squeeze in as you can as more availability comes. But right now, we do have Tony on the west side here with us right now. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. I just want to make a case that the intolerant, or rather the tolerant left is in fact intolerant and not only intolerant, but actually fascist. Let me give you a couple of pieces of evidence for all of you listening, please. Back about 30, 40 years ago, the left started a movement for the Christian right to be more tolerant and our society as a whole to be more tolerant. But if you look at what's been happening, you'll find out that, in fact, they are not tolerant. They are merely substituting one set of morality for another. Item number one, when they got rid of the prayer in school, they brought in a different morality to teach the kids. I can't go into detail because I'm not tolerated to say it. My job is at stake. Number two, but you visit a public school, you'll find out what I'm talking about. Number two, when they got rid of the 10 Commandments, the prayer in school, they substituted a different type of morality. You can Google the different teachers that come in, the substitute teachers, the readers that come in to read to the kids, the schools. I'm sorry, the books. It's because I'm driving. The books that are being replaced now with Christian books. When they got rid of the family unit, as it was described by Christianity back when it was so-called the foundation of this nation, it's been substituted by pseudo-family unit. The tolerant, the free speech has been also limited. The expression of certain words, the fictional words that they have created, like homophobe, which is a fiction, as much as me saying they're bibliophobes or theophobes. So there's a whole narrative, and there's a whole new set of rules that instead of being tolerant, back in 2009, for example, I just had another thought. Not only can you not teach creationism alongside Darwinism, which would be tolerant, by the way, but you're not even allowed to teach the defects or the missing links or the weaknesses of the Darwinian theory of evolution. So from now on, when you hear somebody say that you need to be tolerant or that you're not tolerant, I want you to remember that it's the fascist left, the left that has become fascist. You're limited in your speech now, you're limited in your criticism or your and expression and so forth, that they are in fact fascist, and they are not what they claim to be. If they were tolerant, they would allow both views, two worldviews, different worldviews to be taught side by side, but they do not allow that. They want all of us to march according to their orders. So please remember, it is a new fascist regime that is taking over and limiting your speech. There is no such thing as being as tolerant as they claim to be, but in fact, they're intolerant more than the Christian view, because under the Christian view, you could even have the freedom to curse God if you wanted to. But under the new morality or pseudo-morality and pseudo-tolerance that is now, you're not allowed to criticize their worldview, which is usually paganism and humanism and so forth. So just keep that in mind, folks, that they are hypocrites. They're not really tolerant. They just want to substitute their morality for our morality, which, by the way, our morality made this country great, one nation under God, but they want to substitute that for Darwinism. We came from animals. The kids in school are created in the image of an ape. Therefore, they can kill each other because it's survival of the fittest, yada, yada, yada. Have a nice weekend. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call there. I'm going to disagree with you on one key point here, in that the idea of teaching, I mean, there are certain basic things that, to quote a different movie, that any man of any race and any creed can agree upon, man as in mankind in this sense. But also the idea that we should require the teaching of morality in schools, I'm going to say I am not in favor of that, if only because, therefore, we are then requiring the teaching of a certain, standpoint of it. Essentially, this comes down to a larger issue that I have felt has been an issue for a very long time, the idea that everything should be taken care of centrally this way. And it's interesting that you mentioned there the family unit as well, because the idea that the family unit shouldn't be the core locus of where this is being taught in the first place. Like, sure, I mean, the Supreme Court decisions that have come down recently as part of this consequential term we were discussing previously this week about, prayer adjacent to school activities, things like that. I mean, I have levels of concerns here, but let me just say that, frankly, I'm not interested in any essential ideology being put forth besides what are facts, what are realities within school, because then just saying like, well, it'll have to be mine that is taught there, the morality and the way I want it portrayed here, because I am sure that if you were with some of these, given the way that you talk about them, if we were talking about particularly, government funds or perspectives coming in from, say, Baha'ism or Islam or any of these other faiths, you might have issue with the way they describe it. So I'm not saying that I want one specific morality or not in school. I'm saying that focusing on and having it in schools is a mistake in the first place, because it should be coming from the home, from the family. Because not having it there, I mean, it's sublimating the responsibility and expecting it to rematerialize somewhere else, particularly in schools here. So that's why I find myself, whenever we have these discussions, I mean, that's my plan for my family anyway, is to make sure that they fully understand our family values, our reasons, our well, serious core things that are important to us, and not expecting anyone else to be therefore instructing into them, except for organizations I voluntarily joined, etc. So that's the kind of continuing issue and gripe I have whenever this comes up. So fully, truly, if you have some deep-seated core values that you want to pass on to you and yours, please do that. And expecting anyone else to do it for you, I find more than a little bit more problematic. Okay, we've got time for at least one more call on the line here before we hit that next break here. We do have, again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Tony the Trumper wants a theocracy. And I find your cancel culture listeners interesting. They decry cancel culture, but they can't want to cancel, Frankie, and they want to cancel me. The only two liberal voices on your program. I'll remind the Trumpers, all this, hullabaloo about illegal immigration. Their failed messiah promised that he was going to round up the 11 million illegals working in this country and deport them back to Mexico. He never did it, okay? It was a lie. It was just campaign BS. He also promised he was going to build a wall from California all the way to the Gulf Coast of Texas. That didn't happen either. Another lie, another fantasy. He said Mexico was going to pay for it. Now, that was really crazy. And anybody who believed him is as crazy as he is, as uninformed as he is. And Abbott's willing to, mobilize the Texas National Guard. Well, then why doesn't he mobilize them to do audits of all the businesses that hire illegals in Texas? I bet you there's a whole bunch in agriculture, in food processing, in leisure, in construction. They've been there forever. They're still there. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Now, the Supreme Court is totally illegitimate now. It's got 3 lying right-wing radical justices there who were put there because of the Electoral College, and a president who failed to win the popular vote and then acted like he had a mandate. And that's what this Supreme Court is acting now like they had a mandate to change everything. Trump did not have a mandate to change anything. He lost the popular vote, and then through Moscow Mitch McConnell got these guys in there, breaking all precedents in getting them there. About energy companies, their profits were up between 50 to 70% last year. And of course, gasoline prices went up. Duh. So why not decry price gouging and profiteering on the part of the energy industry? And last but not least, all this talk about Hunter Biden and Hunter and the president and deals that he's doing here and there. Well, I'll remind again your listeners that Trump had his, or still has his, clothing lines made in China. And his daughter got several patents from China. And all this money that they make in China, the Chinese government uses to build or maintain their police state. So again, I find the Trumpers to be very hypocritical and uninformed about the whole picture of what's going on.
Okay, you're certainly entitled to your opinion on this, but let me make maybe a little bit of a finer point on at least some of these things as we're scattershotting a bunch of particular points here. But when we're talking about energy supplies, yeah, the amount that is being made by companies is more than a little bit eyebrow raising. But to also say that there's not been some serious changes in energy policy, even under this administration in the last couple of years, is, well, more than a little bit interesting as well, shall we say. I mean, we've had some things coming out of the pandemic and some differences, but, well, let's just say it was set by an exclamation point when there was the decision not to allow for the continuation of such as things as the Keystone XL pipeline. And now, in the reality of the situation we're in, we're seeing not quite backpedaling because, of course, they can't go that far and you save any political face, but to say that it's not an issue right now would also be, well, frankly, ignorant in its own right. And yeah, we don't stand for cancel culture here on this program. There are plenty of people who want to say, no, you're not allowed to talk about those certain things, and that just makes me want to talk about them more. So anytime that tries to happen, we're just never going to abide by this. But to say that there were not issues with the way the policies we're coming down with now is just also, well, ignorant at best and, well, malicious at worst here. But let's take it on face value here, what we're talking about with, I mean, these energy policies, even these economic policies, that's to say that they are really meant to be the best they can. Like, honestly, frankly, when it comes to China, if you really want to focus on China for a minute, the real issue is that there's a whole lot of people making a whole lot of money off of mainland China, and they're loath to see many pushes against it. It wasn't really said by a previous caller, but the Confucius Institutes that have been in the U.S. was vaguely referenced. I want to say Barbara brought it up. The concept and the locus of that has been the Confucius Institutes are ostensibly guided towards spreading of Chinese culture, the language, etc., but also a way of, well, funding and therefore influencing policy of individual educational institutions. And even before this point happened, there were in the partnerships required to do business in mainland China, there was a lot of focus on you have to partner with a domestic to China business. And, well, you of course have to share the technology with them. And, oh, would you look at that? Now the domestic business is producing some of their own things that just happen to be not quite identical to the information that you gave us here. So, I mean, it's a messy situation at best here. And honestly, just cutting it all off, just breaking trade relations entirely with China, besides being mildly catastrophic to the U.S. economy, as painful as that may be to hear, because of the still serious supply that does come in from here, even if there are certain products that I am never going to buy made in China, safety, baby formula, and or American flags. That one is actually harder than you might think lately to actually be able to find one, but it's not exactly a bird to try to do so, but more frustrating than I would like it to be. I'll say that. Is, I think, something that a lot of people are focused on, but you also got to realize that we don't have a lot of the domestic production here because of things happening like, well, NAFTA and other many, almost generational policies at this point. I think we will see a global realignment of the economic order, so to speak, becoming more hemispheric, potentially, because we could still have a few nukes lobbed and change the whole calculus here before too long. And yeah, a lot of comments coming in on this, so appreciate the point in the call as much as it's worth there anyway. Hope you have a good weekend there. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get more to the points and the concepts and the calls on the line here. If you are wanting to chime in, that number to call again is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot more that we'll get to here today as we're not quite through the end of the show, but we can see it from here. But if you want to get on that line again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The trial of a former Las Cruces police officer will begin on Monday. Christopher Smelzer was charged with second-degree murder in the death of 40-year-old Antonio Valenzuela in February of 2020. Smelzer has pleaded not guilty. He was indicted in July of 2020 at a time when there were protests around the country over police violence. Border Patrol agents in the El Paso sector found 93 migrants at 3 stash houses over the last several days. That's according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In one instance, agents say that on Tuesday they received information of a possible smuggling attempt in Segundo Barrio in downtown El Paso. Agents arrived at the location and encountered 13 migrants from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Ecuador hidden inside a small property. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
We got a crash on the I-10 westbound at Airway. It's blocking 2 left lanes, and there's an ambulance on the scene. Use caution, and it's causing a backup. Also on the 10 westbound approaching Mesa Street all the way up to Artcraft, you've got 9-minute delays. More folks on the 10 this afternoon because North Desert Boulevard is closed. Police also responding to a crash I-10 eastbound at Dallas downtown. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We had quite a night last night, and tonight Well, we could be still looking at another round of some showers and thunderstorms. There's still a lot of moisture in place, so just be aware of your surroundings. Those storms should come to an end as we get into the overnight hours, leaving us with a quieter setup tonight. However, we do have an isolated chance to see more showers and storms each day with warming temperatures into the weekend.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
You should be able to earn money with your money and with more control. Solo Funds makes it simple. With the Solo Funds app, you lend money to other members to help them replace a tire or cover an emergency expense, and they pay you back with a tip. It's a win-win. Plus, you control which loans you fund and when you fund them, so you can make a difference and a return. Join us. Download the Solo Funds app on the App Store or Google Play Store.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Staples is your one-stop travel prep destination. Right now, when you purchase any travel service like passport photos, you can get 20% off your purchase. In-store only, offer ends 7/31. See staples.com/travel for details and exclusions. Get travel ready at Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know. Hey, look.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing. So, a lot of ways to interact with the show, as very much on display if you're on, well, any of the social pages we're on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there, and one that it just made my stomach flip a little bit. EFR over on the Twitch saying, appreciating the program, 2 hours is too short, need to extend another hour or two. And as much as I love a good challenge, that makes me feel away here. But a lot more comments coming in as well. Flaco Jimenez saying that Mexico did pay for the wall, albeit indirectly. I mean, the whole changeover of the Guardia Nacional, the Mexican National Guard, to essentially be a border security force in light of the, well, many policies and restrictions being put in place under the Trump administration may not have been a physical wall, but I submit that it was very much, or at least had been, whatever the circumstances are now, more of a policy one here. A whole lot more comments. Eric Von Holstein, Rathlow, Calvin Williams, Robert Carrasco, Kathy Codry, RJ, Robbie Flores, and more tuning Ion Grimm, tuning in, chiming in. They're also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Calvin Williams, Ion Grimm, Juan, Ida Baeza Gardner, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, John Brazelton, and Flaco Jimenez. Squeezing in what we can here towards the end of the show here. So let's go back to those phone lines. We do have Jerry on the northwest side of town on the line with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call, and I do appreciate you letting us speak our voice out here.
Absolutely.
And no, Raul, nobody in my house wants you to shut up. We would like to change your minds on a lot of things because we think you're ignorant yourself in certain things. For example, China right now has put us on the enemies list of them. They're calling us the enemy.
Yep, basically.
Okay? They just did that, yes. And also, the DOJ from Joe Biden's administration has sicked the equal opportunity or equal I want to call it opportunity.
The
People,
EEOC, I think you're
on
talking about there,
the
right?
state of excuse me?
The EEOC?
Yes, sir.
Mm.
They sicked it on the state of Texas and the law enforcement agencies of Texas. They're going to investigate whether or not pulling over these big trucks and stuff to stop the deaths of all these immigrants and back to big truck is going against the equal rights of the drivers. So figure that one out. You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of the dynamic of the Democratic Party thinking. You know, let's not stop the people coming across the border and killing and getting killed inside of vehicles. Let's stop the people that's trying to prevent that from preventing it. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've had a lot of policy frustrations of this administration on border security. And like, I mean, a real simple answer from my standpoint, even if there isn't a full policy in place, is saying, okay, let's look at the scan. Let's beef up the scanning. Like, even if you're not wanting to do more actual, like, say, border wall construction, more officers in the field, whatever that is, just say, we are specifically going to focus on the ports of entry. Like, sure, there are not a whole lot of like big rigs transiting through the raw desert out there, though it certainly might be possible in certain areas. Point is that this is a port of entry issue if you want to focusing on this specific one. So let's say, okay, what's the plan on that? That would be a very good response in my mind.
Yes. And also stopping them while they're in Mexico. They and before they cross the border, they're coming from other nations, not only Mexico, but from other nations because of economic issues and also issues with law enforcement and gang problems. So why not stop them in Mexico and determine whether or not they're coming here to get away from, let's say, harassment or being identified as a certain group and being killed because of that? No, they want to let everybody come across. Doesn't matter. Just because they're having a tough time down in El Salvador with the economy, that does not mean that they get the right to come to the United States. And so, that seems very hypocritical there. So anyway, I want to just make that clear to Captain Ahab, Raul, that he's looking after that white whale, although this one happens to be orange,
Okay.
So, Captain Ahab, you're wrong again. Thank you, Andrew.
Sure thing.
Have a good day.
Thank you for the point in the call there. Do appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend there. I do. It's actually what you're mentioning there, the idea of essentially outside of the U.S. screening. I want to say that was floated. We talked about it previously by, I think, maybe even some congressional Democrats, but like in a letter that was signed, actually. But I don't think that is policy-wise or even in terms of laws passed has particularly moved anywhere. Squeezing what we can here before the end of the show. We do have Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Andrew. How are you?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, let me just say I think you're doing a great service to our community. Thank you for what you do.
Appreciate it.
There needs to be dialogue, and whether you agree or disagree, having dialogue is the way our country is just built. So thank you for that, sir.
I've greatly appreciate it. So what were you wanting to talk about today?
Well, actually, I wanted to talk to you about two quick points. One, on a personal note, if you don't mind, I went camping for July 4th, which is a big event for us. And we were up in Silver City, New Mexico, and we were at a private RV resort, and we had our campground all set up. I had another fellow with his RV out there as well, and we were just enjoying, looking forward to the fireworks this weekend. But to my surprise, on Sunday, I had an individual come up and ask me to remove my flag. And I thought that was a very strange request, because I'm there to celebrate 4th of July. That's what 4th of July is really. If you look at the essence of what this holiday is, it's about our independence. And I think the political climate in our country has just gone too far in one direction or the other, But ladies and gentlemen, please do not ever let anybody stop their ability to express their political views. You also have a right to be gay. You also have a right to be a minority. You also have a right to believe whatever you want. That's what our country is built on. But the most important thing to me was for the audacity of this woman to say, you've got to bring your flags down. And in all fairness, I will say up front to all your listeners, I had a United States flag up and I had a Trump flag up. I thought it was so bizarre. It's like, if you don't care for it, it's okay. You could have had a Biden flag next to my campsite. I'll still invite you over for a hot dog. I'll still give you a beer and we'll have a nice discussion. But the climate has just gotten to the point where people are acting like lunatics, and it's got to stop. Now, flame away, you guys on the left side. It's okay. That's what this is about. I'd like to bring up another quick discussion, which I think I have a little bit more knowledge than most people do on your show. I am a international airline pilot. I've been doing this for 35 years. I fly over Russia. I fly over Mongolia. I fly over China to my destination. I do 15-hour long-haul flights. Ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please open your eyes up to one point. And I know you're not outside your little bubble. You think this is your whole world, but it is not. There's a big world out there. When I fly these routes, and I do this 3 times a month, there are coal-fired plants throughout the route that I fly over Russia, over China. They are spewing out just incredible amounts of pollution into our environment. Guess what happens? It gets up into the atmosphere, gets into the stratosphere, and it blows over all over the world. Our world is interconnected. And why is this important and why this discussion has not been brought up more is because it all affects us. And my point is to have people in our country try to hamstring our economy because of something they think is noble or it's going to benefit the world. You guys, you're being told a big lie, ladies and gentlemen. Please listen. It's a big lie. Every other country in the world is doing what they have to do to supply the energy for their country, whether it's India, whether it's China, whether it's Russia. Until we have a viable alternative, please, ladies and gentlemen, do not fall for this Green Deal where all we're doing is basically tying our arms behind our back and our adversaries are taking advantage of it. It's a huge, huge disservice to our country, to our economy. And I just wanted to get that point across. I'm not here to pick a fight with anybody. Flame away, ladies and gentlemen. But it's just something you should know. I do this for a living. I fly over these countries. I see what's out there. And, you guys, everybody has a point of view, and that's your God-given right. But before you make statements that you really don't have the background and the knowledge to back up, really think about what's going on and where it's coming from. You are being fed a pile of lies, and all it's going to do is damage our country. I drive from El Paso to Dallas quite frequently. The Permian Basin is a perfect example of how our country can remain energy independent, and it could be done very quickly. But this administration has chosen to go a different route. That's fine, but please do not just buy the rhetoric where they say it's Russia's fault. It is not, ladies and gentlemen. We have the energy here, the resources here. We have the best people in the world that could extract that gas, natural gas, and petroleums out of the ground, and we could be self-sufficient, and we could actually help our allies while there's a war going on. That's what we should be doing. That's what a prudent leader would be doing. And I just wanted to get that point across. Please, ladies and gentlemen, stop the rhetoric, but think. You've got to think. Do not listen to media outlets. And no offense to you, Andrew, because, as I said earlier, and I do not lie, I think you're doing a great job presenting both sides. But there are a lot of media outlets that will push a narrative, and people listen to that stuff, and they think it's the gospel. It is not, ladies and gentlemen. Please open up your eyes. If we do not change course, we're going to cause damage to this country that we may not be able to get out of.
I'll agree with you on that point, that looking at the realities of the situation and what we actually need to deal with is kind of paramount and very important. Because sure, ideology, you gauge your ideas of how you want to get to it, but if that clashes with the reality, if you're then saying, well, I'm just going to stick with the ideology over then, reality will conform to my beliefs, that's not how that works. So you tell you what, I appreciate the point in the call. We got to hit that next break to be able to hit the end of the program here today. So greatly appreciate your points and the way you phrase them there. Interesting perspective, particularly with the flyover there. So we got to hit that break. Coming out of this, figure out what we're going to get up to next and tell you what we got coming up for you next on the show, as well as this weekend. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso Fire responding to an accident I-10 eastbound at Airway, another one in that area today. A heads up that North Desert Boulevard is closed northbound between Paseo del Norte and Trans Mountain starting this afternoon because of road work. That's meaning more people on the 10. 10 westbound between Wrestler and Artcraft is slow. Bumper to bumper, 12-minute delays. Accident reported Yarborough southbound at Vista del Sol. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Almost 3 million people use Navage to breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. I'm Martin Hoke, and I invented Navage, the world's only nose cleaner that helps flush out airborne germs with powered suction. But what do doctors have to say about Navage? Here's Dr. Tonya Farmer, a board-certified ear, nose, and throat specialist.
Most airborne allergens and viruses enter through your nose. When that happens, it can cause congestion and irritation, and that just makes you feel miserable. You can get a cold, you can get flu, sinus infections, or even worse. Flushing your nose with a saline solution is the most effective way to flush all of those dangerous threats out of your nose. So now when patients come in my office, I tell them I highly recommend that you use Navage on a daily basis for overall good health and wellness.
And Navage is all natural and drug-free at Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
My doctor told me my blood pressure is borderline. I figured I could worry about it or do something about it. So I took control with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula. It works safely and naturally to help maintain healthy blood pressure with a custom blend of garlic, vitamins, and minerals. And it's odor-free. I'm taking charge with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
M1EP.com, superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. That's going to do it for us here for today. So I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Let's briefly tell you about it. Coming up next week, I'm going to be talking with Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso, some of their major stories. And this weekend on the El Paso History Radio Show, pre-recorded episode with the New Mexico Museum of Space History, including the local space race, some of the space history in our area, and, well, even some of the celebrations coming up here. So tune in for that tomorrow, 10 to noon here on News Radio 690 KTSM Saturday. But otherwise, thank you to everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. That's what really makes the show what it is. So we'll see you all next week, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on Talk El Paso. Have a great weekend out there. Stay safe. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. And we'll see you all next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
El Paso Fire responding to an accident I-10 eastbound at Airway, another one in that area today. A heads up that North Desert Boulevard is closed northbound between Paseo del Norte and Trans Mountain starting this afternoon because of road work. That's meaning more people on the 10. 10 westbound between Wrestler and Artcraft is slow. Bumper to bumper, 12-minute delays. Accident reported Yarborough southbound at Vista del Sol. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio, news on the hour, KTSM. And a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Brian Shook. President Biden says former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was a strong ally.
He was deeply committed to strengthening the alliance and friendship between the United States and Japan and pursuing an open and free Indo-Pacific region.
Speaking at the CIA, Biden labeled the shooting death highly unusual for Japan compared to the rampant gun violence in the U.S. Flags at the White House are flying at half staff. The leader of the far-right Oath Keepers group says he'll testify before the House January 6th committee if he can appear in person. Stuart Rhodes is currently in jail while awaiting trial. He said he wants the panel to work with the U.S. Marshals Service to allow him to testify at the Capitol building with his legal counsel. Twitter will be pursuing legal action against Elon Musk after he terminated the deal to buy the company for $44 billion. Musk announced Friday morning he would not be going through with the purchase, citing material breaches of